Section 1 of In Galilee by Thornton Chase. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Nicholas James Bridgewater. In Galilee by Thornton Chase, Section 1. Nevertheless, the dimness shall not be such as was in her vexation, when at the first he lightly afflicted the land of Zebulun and the land of Naphtali, and afterward did more grievously afflict her by the way of the sea, beyond Jordan, in Galilee of the nations. The people that walked in darkness have seen a great light. They that dwell in the land of the shadow of death, upon them hath the light shined. Isaiah 9, 1-2. The wilderness and the solitary place shall be glad for them, and the desert shall rejoice and blossom as the rose. It shall blossom abundantly, and rejoice even with joy and singing. The glory of Lebanon shall be given unto it, the excellency of Carmel and Sharon. They shall see the glory of the Lord, and the excellency of our God. And an highway shall be there, and a way, and it shall be called the way of holiness. Isaiah 35, 1-8. Out of Asher his bread shall be fat, and he shall yield royal dainties. Genesis 49:20. And Sharon shall be a fold of flocks, and the valley of Achor a place for the herds to lie down in, for my people that have sought me. Isaiah 65:10. And I will give her her vineyards from thence, and the valley of Achor for a door of hope, and she shall sing there as in the days of her youth, as in the day when she came up out of the land of Egypt. Hosea 2:15. On April 8th, 1907, a bright, cool day, our little party, Mr. Agnew with wife and boy, Mr. Scheffler and I, gathered on the deck of the Khedivial steamer Aswan, lying off the ancient port of Jaffa in Syria. Around us were other Americans, tourists, teachers, and missionaries bound for Haifa, and some for Beirut, about 70 miles north from Haifa, where a Presbyterian college is located. There were also Turkish officers and Egyptian beys, the latter in European dress with red fezzes, and a number of Franciscan monks with close-cropped heads, dressed in the typical brown hooded robes and sandals. On the lower deck, where they had slept rolled up in blankets through the night, were the steerage passengers, crowded groups of Arabs and Turkish men, women, and children in native costumes. After noon, we left our anchorage and sailed northward over the blue Mediterranean from Jaffa toward Carmel, skirting the broken rocky edge of the Syrian coast with its background of green slopes and distant hills. Our hearts were so affected with thankfulness to God and with the beauty and import of that land of promise that we spoke but little to each other and in subdued tones. Our tongues were bound in golden silence. Our eyes searched the ancient scenes and looked keenly to the north for the first glimpse of Mount Carmel and Akka, and we longed for the approaching goal of our pilgrimage. Gradually the bold front of the mountain swelled up from the coastline, and a little after, when the lowering sun slanted its brightness across the waters, the white walls of the little fortress of Akka rose from the ocean and gleamed afar like a marble island in a turquoise sea. You can be sure that our eyes looked long and steadily at the little cluster of white as we came nearer and nearer to that door of hope. Haifa was not to be seen, as it nestles within the elbow of Carmel on its northern side, until the ship had passed by the mountain and turned inward toward the town. We arrived off Haifa at 5 p.m. As the steamer anchored, a fleet of boats came racing toward the ship. They represented different landing companies, the Hamburg American, Clark's, Cook's, etc. Each was manned by 8 to 10 swarthy, sturdy, red-fezzed boatmen, handling as many long, heavy, square-handled oars. The race was in earnest, all eager for passengers and baksheesh. As they came nearer, at a signal from the leader of the crew, each rower placed one bare foot on the cross seat before him, leaped up as high as he could, pulled back his oar with a long, powerful sweep, sinking down to his seat, and then sprang up again for another mighty pull, accompanying each effort with a quick, strong call of encouragement. Halle, 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 ha, sale! It was an exciting welcome, the crews rising and sinking, the boats lifting through the waves and almost in collision, the stirring cries keeping time and becoming louder and more intense as they approached. Cook's arrived first and took our party to the landing place. When entering the boat, the passenger has to submit entirely to the crew. One goes down the slippery steps of the ship's side to the little hanging platform, and as the light boat rises on a wave to meet it, one or two of the Arab sailors seizes him or her in his arms, holds him as the boat sinks and bears him to a seat. The process is repeated at the landing place, where each person is lifted by strong arms from the boat as it rises to the dock. So we entered Palestine. A crowd of people was on the pier, and as we went up toward the street, a familiar face appeared, and one of us exclaimed, "There's Mirza Asadollah!" As we hurried to the cook's carriage, I managed to touch his hand in passing, and received a pressure of recognition, but no further attention. Haifa. We were taken to the Catholic Hospice of the Little Child, conducted by German sisters, where we had spacious rooms, plainly furnished and scrupulously clean. Over the door of each room was an inscription dedicating it to one of the saints. Mr. Scheffler and I had the room of St. John. In it were 2 neat beds, plain chairs, wash-bowls, and matting on the stone floors. In the dining room all the guests sat at one long table. The food was plain and wholesome. Mirza Asadollah, with Mirza Mohsen and Mirza Jalal, called in the evening, and we were happy to meet them. Others were in the reception room, who understood both English and Arabic, and they were listening intently, curious to learn what acquaintance or business the Americans had with the Persians. They would not have understood that only the love of our hearts drew us together. We learned that word of our arrival would be sent the following day, and arrangements made for going to Akka as soon as convenient. We were rejoiced that we should soon enter the presence of the renowned teacher whom we called the Master. He, however, asks us not to so call him, as he says the titles Master and Lord belong to Jesus, and he wishes to be called by his proper and perfect title, Abdul-Baha, the Servant of God. He asks each one of the friends to first learn this station of his clearly, that he may know in his heart the meaning of Abdul-Baha. We slept well that first night in Syria. In the morning we went up the hill to Mirza Asadollah's home, passing through the German colony. This colony was established in Haifa in 1843, in expectation of the second coming of Christ, which they claimed was prophesied to occur soon after that time on Mount Carmel. Over the doors of school and church, and of many houses, are inscriptions signifying their expectation, such as Der Herr ist nahe, the Lord is near, etc. Yet they know not that the prophecy has been fulfilled, and that the Lord has indeed been at their very doors. Mirza Asadollah and Mirza Mohsen welcomed us warmly. They inquired after the friends in America, naming many of them. They asked concerning the growth and condition of the great cause, and rejoiced at any news of love and unity in service among the friends. Mirza Mohsen interpreted. End of section 1. Recording by Nicholas James Bridgewater. Recorded in London, England.